Can you feel it? The fire in your soul, leaping at the chance for love. Can you feel it? Love's the only drug I know, but we've been playing the hand now with death, so we can light it up. I know that we can make it through the night, but I can feel the fire inside, so there won't be nothing tonight. We crossed the line, and now it's clear to see the light behind the suffering. Believe we'll finally be free. Let the silhouette cast upon your heart, turning every little moment into scars. Baby, it's our chance to make a start, so we can fly.
I know that we will make it. I know that we will make it. I know that we will make it. I know that we.
I know that we can make it through the night, but I can feel the fire inside, so there won't be nothing tonight. We crossed the line, and now it's clear to see the light behind the suffering. Believe we'll finally be free.
Right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Down in the Valley. My name is Edson Ochoa, and we are now in episode 43 of this podcast. Welcome everybody who's watching it right now, whether it's live, syndicated, or on the podcast version. Hope y'all are enjoying this Thursday. At this moment, we know that we have the Astros playing against the Boston Red Sox. That was not even close to a Boston accent. Whatever. Forgive me, guys. But so it's gonna be a lot of people are gonna be busy. But it's time to talk a little bit of Toros. Jacob will be joining us soon, hopefully, in the next couple of minutes. So it's going to be an interesting episode. As we all know, the season is over for the Toros. We didn't make it to the playoffs. We played our last match of the season this past weekend against San Antonio FC at San Antonio. So we're going to be discussing that. We're also going to be discussing what can we expect for the Toros to do during the off season. Whether it's what we want, who we want to see let go, who we want to see brought in, those kinds of things. I know we've been talking a little bit about that on Generation Orange the last past 2 days, especially on Tuesday, which is when we had our RGB segment. But yesterday, there was something that was brought up on the show. Well, that Sean brought up on the show that I think it'd be interesting for you all to know about it as well. But before we continue, I do want to let you know, be sure to follow our friends at the Beautiful Game Network, who I just realized, why don't I could have sworn I had the Beautiful Game Network logo around here. I'll fix that later on. So be sure to follow our friends at the Beautiful Game Network on Twitter and on Facebook at the BGNFM. Be sure to also check out their website, bgn.fm. On there, you will find BGN Written. You will find all of our podcasts there, as well as other USL podcasts. So be sure to check them out and give them a follow on each respective USL podcast, social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, you name it. Be sure to also check out our stuff on SoundCloud, Google Play Store, Stitcher, Google Play Store, Stitcher, and iTunes, where we have all our podcasts loaded up, thanks to Mike Sparks from the Beautiful Game Network. Also, be sure to check out the Beautiful Game Network's official sponsor, which is Roughneck Scarves. They're the official scarf supplier of the USL, MLS, and NCAA. And I think that's pretty much it that we really need to say as far as thank yous. Really, honestly, we really appreciate everything you all do in order to try to expand the outreach of media, of independent media, for each individual USL team that is possible. And we know that the family has been kind of growing these last couple of months. So hopefully we can end up having one podcast for each individual USL team, whether it's USL Championship, USL League One, or USL League Two. I think that'd be epic, but step by step. That's how it needs to be done. So anyway, guys, Jacob, how are you doing? Are you there?
Yes, I am, and I'm doing pretty well. Looking forward to talk some soccer. I know there's been a lot that has happened. Of course, we've got the San Antonio game, and then, of course, the Women's CONCACAF Championship. That was pretty interesting as well.
Definitely. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we want to talk about. I think it's interesting because, just having the CONCACAF Women's Championship at HB Park, I think it just elevates the reputation of the Rio Grande Valley as far in the sports world. I think that's what it did. Like, it elevated our reputation with it because it's been, for the most part, it's been so successful.
Exactly. And of course, I mean, sticking on that note, of course, they didn't do a fantastic job with organizing the whole event. We can talk about, yes, HEB Park was empty, but look at the other groups as well. Those stadiums were pretty empty as well, even for the United States team. So it's interesting route, but it's epic that they decided to pick a place like HEB Park down here. And it's also just a perfect location. Why so? Because there's restaurants like right near as well. So if people want to go hang out after the game, they can. So that was a good reason why they could have picked it.
Yeah, I mean, so I think another thing as well is just the first-class facilities that are there at HEB Park. I mean, besides the stadium, which we know are pretty awesome facilities, I mean, you have the training fields right there that are pretty much the best in the USL, and the fact is that this pitch is 100% like CONCACAF approved. As far as dimensions, as far as the quality of the sod, everything it's top notch. And I was talking. You mentioned. I know you mentioned talking about the stadium being empty, and I'm not sure if it was who I was discussing it with. I think it was with Ray. The fact is that a lot of the times, like the marketing for these kind of events is extremely. I think it's extremely difficult. Hopefully, Ray, if you're on right now watching or listening, be sure to put in the chat to see what exactly. I think it was with you, Ray. We were talking about or maybe it was with Sean. But we were talking about. He was talking about how difficult it is to market CONCACAF in general. He says that hey, what's up, Calvin? He says that even in the men's team, you see these kinds of attendances for excluding USA and Mexico, but other than that, it's usually been like it's difficult to market these kind of events in a country where it's not, you can say, the host country. So, for example, obviously Mexico is going to sell out in the US and it's going to sell out in Mexico, barring some exceptions. That's something we don't talk about. USA, for the most part, the men's is going to sell out or close to selling out. But, for example, if you're going to bring in a tournament, let's say the Gold Cup. I mean, how many times have they brought the Gold Cup to BBVA Cup Stadia, and they brought it, to all these stadiums where it's Honduras versus El Salvador or French Guyana versus you name it, and it's not going to be full. And that's the thing with these CONCACAF tournaments. If it's not US and if it's not Mexico, it's not going to really sell out. And in the women's, because the women's, the sport has not developed as much to have, to be attractive to soccer fans. Because my dad went to the first one, and he was hearing some comments around, and he's saying a lot of people, some of the people complained that, the quality of the play was bad. The typical things that they say about women's teams, and so it was expected that it wasn't going to be great, but I think we got, or I would say that there was a huge benefit for the ladies that were out there on the pitch playing, whether it's the Costa Rican national team, Jamaican national team, the Cuban national team, and the Canadian national team. They got to play in a decent pitch this time, not like in the actual World Cup in 2015. Correct me if I'm wrong. When it was in Canada, it was 100% turf. They actually got to play in a quality field this time, whether it was in Cary, North Carolina, in Edinburgh at HB Park, or now it's Frisco, but it wasn't Frisco, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. And you bring up a great point about that whole thing about the turf. One place that was FIFA regulated, as in FIFA approves this type of turf because it's the exact density and still get cut up, but that's almost besides the point because that was fine. It is true with all those comments. It is, yes, the play is going to be different. Still Caribbean teams, and it is still CONCACAF play. What? It just doesn't seem like CONCACAF will ever be that great at plays. And of course, yeah, it's great. Canada is fantastic with the United States there. Boom. You got two teams, and maybe a rising Jamaica team. Who knows? Panama team that might make it to the World Cup too. So that's huge.
But think of it this way, and I think it's interesting to point out that it also doesn't help when the Rio Grande Valley is pretty much like 90% Hispanic, 90% Mexican. Like, we have very few Cubans, we have very few Jamaicans, we also have very few Canadians, and a couple of Cubans. I think there's a decent Cuban population in the valley, but so all of these what's the word I'm looking for? It's a marketing strategy. The demographics of the place just wasn't. You weren't gonna expect sellouts at HEB Park, and couple that with the fact that the organization RGVFC, Lone Star, I forgot what the actual name of Vipers season coming up as well. A couple of events at Bert Ogden Arena, so they were already with a full plate. So it wasn't going to be, you couldn't expect the organization to do much marketing or have enough funds to do decent marketing. I think for the most part, for what it was, I think they were saying there was like around 1,000 average attendance in the games. I think it was decent. For me, it was decent for what it was, considering all the variables we had against.
That is true, but you also brought up a good point with RGVFC. Guess what? It's not their problem to really advertise. It wasn't their problem to really advertise the tournament. It's the CONCACAF's deal. The CONCACAF needs to give them, okay, you need to do this real quick, set up a couple of videos, and constantly play those throughout home games. Mm-hmm. That's all the CONCACAF needed to do, really. The Federation needed to do for that matter. Because at the end of the day, it's all about who really ran it. And of course, we all know it was CONCACAF. So that's the whole reason why we had those crowds. Yes, of course, you also brought up a good point that we don't have a lot of diversity. And that is true. It's mainly Hispanics. We have some Latino culture, as in maybe some Hondurans, but it doesn't go down further than that, because we all know at the end of the day, we're still about 30 minutes away from the border. Mm-hmm. If you're talking about Edinburgh there. So at the same time, you're going to get that type of crowd, and they're going to expect better soccer. And of course, they're not going to get it. So
yeah,
each game, it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think my biggest concern here is, like you said, I think CONCACAF should have done a better job, because I'm not sure exactly how it works, so don't quote me on this, but I'm assuming that CONCACAF went to HEB Park, looked at the facilities, and said, okay, we want to have the tournament here. I'm not sure if RGVFC paid money to CONCACAF to be able to have them, or if CONCACAF paid RGVFC some money in order to rent, you can say, the facilities for this tournament. I'm not sure how that works, but if it was that CONCACAF paid for this for the facilities, then I still think, like you said, it should have been CONCACAF that would handle the brunt of the marketing, or at least help put the marketing. Yes, we've seen U.S. Soccer would put on the ad boards. You saw it in the Open Cup final. You saw it in the U.S. national team games, where they would promote the CONCACAF Women's Championship, and they would say Edinburgh, Texas. But it's not enough. I don't think that wasn't a national scheme. But who's gonna go? Like, who's gonna make the trip to Edinburgh, Texas, when the U.S. women's national team is not playing there, when the Mexican national team is not playing there? Granted, the Mexican women's national team is a dumpster fire, but that's neither here nor there. But the point is that CONCACAF needs to be a little bit more participating in helping out, wherever this place is, or wherever these tournament is going to be held, whether it's group stage or in the actual knockout stage. Exactly. Calvin says, I don't know how CONCACAF can have any realistic chance of advertising when RGV is struggling themselves to advertise. CONCACAF leaves heavily on the home team to tap into their marketing list. Yeah, that does not help either. Thank you, Kava. Thank you so much for that information. I mean, realistically, it wasn't going to be. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of questions. Is will CONCACAF ever want to come back to HEB Park, considering this attendance? I leave the question up to you.
Well, it is CONCACAF. We do know them not to be that bright, so there is still a possibility of coming back.
I love how positive you are in that aspect.
Part of it's true.
Yeah, I mean, money talks.
We saw it on the other attendances. They probably had about the same, so really?
There's a place where they actually post the reported attendances for these matches. Because it'd be interesting to see how our attendance stacked up to everybody else's. Okay, group stage. Okay. It looks like in Cary the attendance was 5,404. In the first one. In the second one, when they played Panama, the United States, 7,532. And in the third one, when the United States played Trinidad, and we all know that the United States already pretty much clinched, their passage to the next round, they only got 3,996. In HEB Park, there weren't any reported attendances.
Well, I know one of those games for Cary, North Carolina, was on a weekend, and that would really be why we had that crowd that we did.
Mm-hmm.
The other one, especially when it was the Trinidad game, was like on a weird night, maybe like on a Tuesday or a Monday, so it was really maybe even a Wednesday. I'm not entirely sure, but all I know is saw a big drop off in that last game for sure.
Yeah, I don't see any reported attendance, probably because CONCACAF doesn't really get that information, but I think the U.S. soccer actually does keep tabs on that information as far as attendance. That's why Group A matches do have attendance reported. So it'll be, like I said, I mean, considering that we didn't have Mexico, we didn't have the United States, which are pretty much the two national teams that call for people's attention in the United States, I think we did fairly decent, like I said. Now, as far as the matches go, I know Jacob. I know you've been to a couple of them. How was the atmosphere? How was the actual play for those matches?
Well, I actually did not get to go to any of them, but I know. Well,
I know Ray was.
Are you talking about this past tournament or?
Yeah, I was talking about this one, but now I remember it was Cesar and Ray that actually went to the matches. So hopefully we can get Ray later on and see if he can talk about a little bit about his experiences at the tournament. But I think overall, I'd give it a passing grade, even with the lack of the marketing. Calvin says, if the U.S. women's national team can barely pull 8,000 for a match, I don't think it's that incriminating for HEB Park to only have 1,000 fans coming out to see Cuba and Costa Rica and Canada. Yeah. Yeah.
I 100% agree on that note. It's really true. It's back to it was at a weird place, first off. China. I mean, I remember the first time family commented and said, why is it at this place? The lighting is super bad on TV.
Mm-hmm.
That way, it wasn't at a great A for even the U.S. national team. And then B, of an attendance. Maybe if it was, let's say, Providence Park or somewhere a bit like that, where the soccer culture is a bit bigger place, then it might have gotten even a bigger crowd, like Columbus or something of that nature, where for at least US was better. So it was not bad at all for us to only get that much when we even had a better facility than where US was playing.
And I can assure you that in Cary, they probably must have promoted the heck out of this tournament because USA and Mexico were going to be there. So you got to also put that into a factor. I feel like it, just to mark the thing we had against us, because we all thought when they announced that Cary and Edinburgh were selected to be in the knockout stages, or not in knockout, the group stages of this tournament, we all thought, okay, well, maybe one group is going to be USA, and then the three other CONCACAF teams, and then another group will be Mexico and other 3 teams. But it turns out they put USA and Mexico in the same group, and just gave us pretty much the scrap. Sorry, I don't want... I know it's going to sound offensive, and that's not what I'm trying to make. Okay, let me rephrase that. They put the strongest, the more marketable teams in Group A, and they gave us the lesser-known teams. Hopefully that sounds better. Like I say, I do not want to offend anybody or minimize the work that these ladies have put in through the tournament, whether it's Canada, whether it's Jamaica, was it Costa Rica, and Cuba. But yeah, and then they have... Calvin also says, and Cary has the North Carolina Courage and the North Carolina FC fan bases to base their marketing off of. Yeah, you're 100% right. So, I don't know. Hopefully we can. Hopefully this happens again in the future. We want to see more CONCACAF stuff here at HEB Park. But number one, the fan base in the Rio Grande Valley have to step up. Hopefully what will help is, hey, we want Mexico. I mean, Cary's stadium and our stadium, they're similar size. Cary's stadium is 10,000. We are, I believe, officially we're at 9,700. So we're not that far off. So there's not going to be an excuse saying, oh, well, we didn't give you Mexico or we didn't give you the United States because you guys will not be able to fill the stadium. Cary didn't fill their stadium either. So that excuse is invalid. I hope next time we have if we do have, once again, a group stage for the CONCACAF Women's here at HEB Park, I sincerely hope that whoever runs the bid makes a push to try to get Mexico, the Mexican national team, to play here. I think it'd be better and it'd give better results as far as attendance-wise to this tournament. That's just my personal opinion. Guys, whoever's in the chat right now, whoever's watching right now, be sure to post on the chat what y'all think of that as well. Jacob?
Well, I mean, my thing is, for sure, we had the top 5 team play down here, and that apparently wasn't enough for marketing. And I know that wouldn't have happened at all, was to have teams from North, Middle, and that is basically USA, Canada, and Mexico. Mm-hmm. Of course, that will never happen because that's just unfair to everyone else. We had the top 5 team in the nation. I keep thinking this is college football. No, we had the top 5 team in the world, which was epic, playing against lesser opponents. And now, hopefully, if people watch this World Cup and see that, guess what? Jamaica, a team from that group as well, with Canada, maybe they'll think watching some more women's soccer down here. It just, if they want to get a bigger crowd, maybe have it again. Yes, of course, do a bit more marketing. But that's one way that you can do it, and it just all goes back to marketing. You need to market this correct, whether you're CONCACAF or whoever really runs it.
Yeah, but I think another setback that we had was this whole thing with switching administrations. I believe it was the previous administration that did all with Bert Garcia, who got this tournament at HB Park. And then, you know the whole story. Bert left, a lot of people left. So the people who stayed and picked up the pieces, you know, they had very little time to prepare. So it was just a huge cauldron of bad timing, bad decision making. But thankfully, it was able to come out as smooth as possible. There's obviously going to be quirks here or there. Nothing's going to be perfect, but it went well with minimum fuss, and that's what I appreciate from an organization has done something like this for the first time in history in the Rio Grande Valley. Baby steps. We got this done. We got CONCACAF Champions League elimination game at HB Park as well. We've had what else have we had? Obviously, we're bringing in the MX teams over as well. So I think these steps help us in like I said in the beginning of the podcast, in raising our reputation in the soccer world. And then maybe as the Toros become better in USL, hopefully that'll happen. You know, that'll eventually put the Rio Grande Valley like on the map in national soccer. Is like, hey, these guys are the real deal. This region is the real deal. Like, we need to do more stuff with them, and hopefully we can have that. Calvin says Mexico should absolutely host a game at HEB Park. It's goofy that they haven't already.
Well, the reason why now is because Mexico lost and are out of the World Cup and were coincidentally out of the World Cup on the exact same day of USA men's national team death day.
Yeah,
I mean, that was a terrible day, but then it's also pretty cool to see Mexico not make it too if you're a hardcore USA fan like me.
No, I get you.
I know. And that story is a whole different thing with people don't care about the women's team, which is dumb when 90% of Europe cares about their women's teams.
Yeah, I mean, we see it with the growth of the women's teams, especially in England. You know, they have their own leagues now, and a lot of our NWSL players want to go over there. They want to even to Australia as well. We talked about it on Tuesday, with 5 Dash players going to the Australian League, including Sofia Huertas. Obviously, you cannot expect the women to play at the same level as the men. Why? Because professional women's soccer is still in this infancy stage compared to how many years has it been since men's soccer has been played? More than a century. So, yeah. So, you know, it's going to grow. I think the level of play is going to get better. I mean, so for example, let's look at basketball. You look at clips from the 80s, look at clips from the 70s. You look at them in the eyes of like somebody who's watched basketball, modern basketball, and you look and you see like, oh, well, their form is goofy, or you know, something like that, or like, oh, like this is a rookie mistake kind of thing. But the level of play isn't as good as it is now. As time goes on, people get better. People understand. Soccer is the same as well. I mean, you look at 50s and 60s archive footage of soccer, and what is now considered an easy shot for a goalkeeper. In that instance, it was extremely difficult to even get to it because the level of agility just wasn't there yet. The players weren't as developed agility-wise in order to make these acrobatic saves. And you've had a couple, even with shots, like they look like kind of out of whack, but it's because as players develop, they learn new things, and I think with the women, it's going to happen. You're going to see better things as the rest of the world catches up. There's going to be a lot more competition, and each individual country has, as we all know, has their own individual way of play style. And so it's going to be influenced in the long run, and you'll start seeing the results. Maybe not 5 years, maybe 10 years or 15 years from now, you'll see better play even from these lower leveled national teams. But the question is, will their home countries give them financial support in order for them to continue to develop? And I think that's the key question, but that all falls into political and social issues, which we're not going to talk about here.
Yeah. I mean, I've got some good news for Mexico women's national team fans, which I know it's probably not a lot, but for you, Edson, as well. Because I followed Aggie women's soccer, and they're really, either way, they've got a player that has been really, really successful for the Aggie women's soccer team, and she's from fan base behind her at every home game, which is pretty cool to see. And so she is for sure playing or going to play with the team, so that's something to look forward to in the near future, to see that lady play. So that will make, of course, it takes different steps, but I think that's a way to getting back to the World Cup for Mexico women's. Yeah, and I
mean, you also have to keep into consideration that, you know, the domestic league is growing, and they've gone through, after Leonardo Cuellar being the coach. I think with Leonardo Cuellar, Mexican women's national team was in its most successful years. Once he left and they started bringing in all these other coaches, it just hasn't been the same. Where now we're like, they didn't even make it to the World Cup, which is a shame. But hopefully it'll kickstart, some sort of reform where the federation needs to take the women's national team more seriously. Does that mean bringing in, opening up the age limit in the domestic league? Maybe, maybe not. Does it mean adding a couple international slots in the domestic women's national team? We don't know. Obviously, we know that that's a federation where they're going to follow the money. And so if the women's national team is not going to make the money, then they're not really going to care in making it better. But that's a couple of things that maybe can help to develop and take this more seriously, because obviously it's a failure on the Mexican Federation not to be able to make it to the Women's World Cup, even though they're obviously not the best team in the CONCACAF, but they should technically be, a second or third, at least make it to the World Cup. But now Canada has advanced so far in that, and that includes because you have Canadians playing in NWSL, playing abroad. And Mexico, they're either all in the domestic team or they're playing in college here in the United States, and that is not cutting it. I don't think we have, barring Sofia Huerta, who she used to play for Mexico, but now plays holds her allegiance to the U.S. national team, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jacob. Other than that, you don't have any Mexican women that I know of that is part of the Mexican national team that plays in NWSL. So that doesn't help either. The Canadian women, the American women, obviously, and the Brazilians and the Germans, you have players in NWSL going up against the very best. I don't understand why we don't have more women playing in NWSL. Is it because the clubs don't want, or is it because of the players? I think it's more of the players. I think the players, for some reason, don't want to play in NWSL. Is it because there's too much competition? We don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised.
And here's one thing to look back at. I was reading something about this as well, and for sure it was because what Mexico does, women's national team, they wait for United States players, like mainly been born from U.S. but have
Mexican parents,
some of that nature that is, and so they go through soccer and then they choose Mexico, but of course they're gonna most likely to the United States because, well, one is one in the world and one is not that. One is not even in the top 10. So problem to where they just
so in other words,
just a bit of money, just a little bit of money to say.
So in other words,
$2,000 just to say, go try and find some players to make this better.
So in other words, it's almost kind of like the Mexican national team gets the scraps of the U.S. women's national team. The ones that don't make it through the scouting process, the Mexican Americans who don't make it through the scouting process of U.S. soccer, but they don't have any choice but to, okay, I guess I'll go represent Mexico, kind of thing. Because I know, if I recall correctly, I know last World Cup we had a case where we had two twins. One of them played for U.S., another one was playing for Mexico. I believe it was, I don't remember, it was for the senior women's or it was for the under 20s or under 17s. But I know that was the case, that one of the twins was able to make it through the process and played for U.S. women's national team. I think it was one of the youth ones. And then the other twin didn't make it and she went to go represent Mexico. But that really makes sense. I mean, what you're saying is that Mexico is just waiting for the scraps rather than continuing to develop their own homegrown women, But I think the Liga MX Femenil is a good start. They've got a lot to do. They have a lot to. They have a lot of distance they have to catch up if they want to really compete against the United States. Because right now in CONCACAF, U.S. women's national team have no competition. I'm saying that right now.
It's true. I mean,
this whole tournament was
like
window
I said,
dressing.
The only competition that U.S. has is Canada, and we saw it on that Wednesday. Today, wow. And why do I bring that up? Well, it's because you could notice that was a good rivalry. Both teams hated each other, and it could have been easily tied, and it could have been easily a blowout for each side. So that was really interesting to look out for. And then there's nothing really else outside. For sure, Germans and the team that USA seems to not be able to beat lately because of the fact that it's the ex-United States women's national team coach is Sweden, if I'm not mistaken. Sweden looks good, and of course, I know that you and Sean have talked about this before because I remember it was one of the first shows that I watched of how much they've progressed, and we've kind of, and the United States women's national team is kind of downgraded for that. So it'll be interesting to watch it for the World Cup, and I'm really excited for it. But at the same time, if U.S. can defend it this year.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully they'll be able to get the 4th star. I'd be really happy if they manage to get the 4th star, which I think it'll be very likely to happen. I think at least they'll make it to the final. I can assure you right now, the United States will make it to the final. It will kind of depend to see who the rival is to see before I can say like, oh, they'll win it or they're not going to win it. Calvin also points out, I think another thing that would help HEB Park as a soccer destination is that the RGV region as a whole needs to market itself as a destination, kind of like how Houston has in regards to NRG and BBVA Stadium. You're not wrong. I mean, what do we have? Shopping? That's about it.
We've got shopping. We've got a new stadium. We can market that pretty well. I know that.
We got the island, but we got the island, but it's like an hour. It's like an hour away from McAllen. It's kind of like Houston trying to promote Galveston, kind of thing. But yeah, you make sense. I think the Rio Grande Valley in and of itself is really not the first place you think of when you think of tourism or going to go visit. You know, like for example, San Antonio, Houston. You know, you name it. Everybody, for the most part, they leave the valley to go visit these places, but nobody comes to the valley because they want to see stores and stores and stores. Oh, a restaurant, stores. Oh, another store. Oh, no, that's a store as well. You know, you get the point. You know, our economy thrives on commerce. That's all we have at the Rio Grande Valley. So that's going to be kind of difficult to market. But if done correctly, that'll be something that kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Distinguishes us from the rest of the soccer cities, per se.
Yeah, most definitely. But it's pretty difficult to market correctly down here. It's just the way that it is. Yes, you can market HEB Park, and we've got Bert Ogden Arena now. Two awesome places, but of course, about it. Yeah, you got UTRGV as well. Maybe get some more students down here and try to get some type of deal with the school. Of course, that will never happen, but hey, it's worth a shot to try and get two schools actually that we have, UTRGV and STC is, and saying, look, open it up and say, we can give you guys, if you're a student, we can give you discounted tickets or something of that nature. Could work.
See, another thing that kind of pops up, and I think you're not going to let me lie and correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like that RGVFC, kind of transitioning now into the Toros, RGVFC kind of markets itself more of a Central Valley or Mid-Valley kind of thing, where Brownsville, Harlingen, South Padre Island, it's kind of like in the fringe of like, they don't really do a lot of marketing over there in Brownsville, in South Padre Island, in Harlingen. Like most of it is kind of concentrated in the McAllen metropolitan area. So, I mean, that doesn't kind of help with identity. But Calvin also brings this up. He says, RGV has the unique ability to market to the rest of Central America as a destination that's American, yet still shares a common language. Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe, but the thing about it is like as far as budget is concerned, we can't really go put out billboards. Well, I mean, I have seen some billboards in the toll road from Monterrey Reynosa. I've seen some Toro stuff there when I've gone to Monterrey. But other than that, you know, it's gonna be kind of hard to market, especially with the fact that, you know, we have very few Central Americans living in Rio Grande. It's a difficult subject, and I'm not a marketing expert. I didn't study marketing. I have a couple of friends that are marketers, and even they say it's kind of like a difficult scenario that we're trying to how to market this team to kind of help grow its base. So, but I think, unless you have anything else that you want to add, Jacob, I think we're pretty much talked about, you know, the CONCACAF Women's Championship. You know, I thought it was a very interesting tournament in the end. Without any surprise, the U.S. won. They defeated Canada 2-0 in the final. Like we said, Mexico didn't make it. I think that was a don't want to say surprise. It was more like it kind of went against common sense. So now I guess we can talk about the Toros, since we kind of hinted about it for a while. So This past Saturday, the Toros went to San Antonio, and they played their final match of the season against our heated rival. And from the start, like, we knew the way our players were looking at it, that they were going to go in all out. They felt like they had something to prove. They felt that they wanted to make a statement and be the ones that spoiled San Antonio's chances of making it to the playoffs in the USL Cup. And so I was there very early, actually, because I was there at Toyota Field. And I was just kind of listening around, and it seemed to me like the general atmosphere in Toyota Field from the work or the people that were there, you know, they felt really, really certain. They felt certain that San Antonio was going to defeat RGVFC. Obviously, we knew that wasn't going to be the case. Even Harry, who is a San Antonio fan but follows us, this podcast and everything we tweet out, and the other guys from San Antonio Roundtable and Texas Soccer Radio, who are the two main podcasts for San Antonio FC, they felt that this was going to be difficult. Why? Because it felt that RGVFC had kind of gotten their thing together, their chemistry together, and they showed that they were a force to be reckoned with. And Jacob, what did you think going into this match? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, and even before I go into that, what you said really quickly, from all of San Antonio thinking that they were going to beat us, that reminds me so much of Orange County, their fan base, and of course Orange and Black Radio. Because even us, technically, for that game, we said, oh, we're going to get our butts kicked. It's not going to be that close. 2-0, maybe 3-0. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll be able to get a goal off. And, of course, we came out and we were able to beat them. And then, of course, later on we saw we can beat tough teams. Sometimes we struggle against easy teams, but we can beat tough teams when this team is together. I mean, basically, I took that mentality into the game. If we're focused and our mind is right, it will be possible for this game. Mm-hmm. But if we don't focus, really, then it's going to be a problem. So that's really what I brought into that game, that mentality.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest concerns was who was going to play. Considering the fact that against the Switchbacks, they played an alternate squad, and then we went and we saw that the weekend before against Tulsa, they played pretty much the A team. So I was kind of in like, okay, is he gonna rest some people, or is he gonna go all out? Based on pre-match quotes, we felt that Coach Chivry was gonna go all out. With this, and he was going to kind of put in all of his cards on the table and try to get the win. So the match began, and I'm sorry. So this is how frustrated I was at the stadium. Keep in mind, I'm in the press area. I was so frustrated how RGVFC was playing in the first half. Like, I could not sit. And to everybody who knows me, my family, my friends who know me well, when I cannot sit watching a game, that's because I'm extremely frustrated. Like to me, RGV looked confused. They were dazed and confused. They had no idea from where San Antonio was coming from. They could not make more than 3 passes at a time before they were either intercepted or they pretty much threw the ball out of the field. San Antonio pressured them really well in the midfield, and they choked Todd Warden. To me, they choked Todd Warden, just like the guys at San Antonio's Roundtable said. They said, we have to focus on Todd because he is the engine of this team. All play goes through Todd Warden. And that's exactly what they did. And RGV was not able to counteract it. And then, you had Cheno Guzman scoring in a goal off of a free kick, which, by the way, in the previous, it was funny because, so in the previous play, it was a corner kick by San Antonio, and Carlos Small is in the first post. He's guarding the first post. The ball comes at him, kind of rebounds from his chest into his arm. Obviously, San Antonio was trying to call a penalty, but there wasn't a penalty. The ball goes out. As it bounces out of the field, Carlos Small kicks it. He literally kicked it out of the stadium. Like, literally, the ball went out of the stadium and probably hit a car. I wonder if it was, I hope it wasn't my car that he hit, but I just thought it was funny, but at the same time, it concerned me because, I was like, holy smokes, like, Carlos is not 100% focused in this game. Like, he's letting the game get to him. And I said, the best thing that can happen to the Toros was for this half to finish. And so that way, Coach Echeverry can go and get this team focused, because if you don't get focused, it was game over.
You're definitely correct. From the start of the game, it looked like the Toros that we all knew from the start of the season were just on the road. Like, basically the game versus Oklahoma City at home and on the road, when both of those games we lost to. Because looking back, because I'm looking at the lineup as well, and you know how it shows the yellow cards?
Yeah.
Well, there was 2 for San Antonio, but 5 for RGVFC.
And most of them in the first half.
Enriquez, Carlos Small, Todd Wharton, Pablo Aguilar, and Sheldon Sullivan. That tells you, especially Carlos Small started, I know that for sure, and Chuy Enriquez, basically, Todd Wharton, Pablo Aguilar. He did end up getting subbed. Same with Small. But shows they were focused, just like you said. As long as that half ended 1-0, we probably thought, okay, they can get refocused and maybe the second half will change.
Yeah, definitely, because we've seen from RGVFC that for some reason that, like, it's usually a game of 2 halves. So, like, either the first half or the second half, they're going to have a crappy moment, and then they're going to have a good moment, or vice versa. And so that's what I was waiting for. I was just waiting, okay, as long as we keep it 1-0, I think we're good, because that gives us an opportunity. We change the chip, and we can probably be better, and we can probably make some damage. In the second half, that's exactly what happened. The Toros kind of felt a lot more confident. They trusted each other a whole lot more. You started to see a lot of that drove. Who was it? King? I think it was King, who was the defender for San Antonio. Drove him crazy. Like, he had no idea who to get. And Carlos Small was able to get his shot past Matt Cardone. And from then on, it was like a ping pong match. Like, that's the best way I can explain it. It was like a ping pong match where it's like Toros had a dangerous opportunity, then right in the next place, San Antonio had a dangerous opportunity, and so on and so forth. It was like Michael Nelson had a couple of saves. Matt Cardone had a lot of saves, I think, and so in the end, like in the last 20 minutes, it was literally like that. Like you'd have a lot of counterattacks. There were a couple of counterattacks that the Toros had that they weren't. The Toros actually had a numerical advantage in these counterattacks, but whether it was because they were tired or something, the pass, that key pass in order to continue the play, just was non-existent. So we lost the element of surprise in that aspect. And I believe we had about 2 of those kind of plays in the match. One of them I know for sure. I remember it was a counterattack after a San Antonio corner. where the ball gets to Brandon Morales, who comes in as a substitute. He hands it off to Chewy, and then had Chewy passed the ball correctly forward and with a lot of power in front of Morales, he was 1-on-1 against the keeper. But Chewy was probably tired, and he wasn't able to get the correct touch to it, and we lost the element of surprise there. But like I said, it's just those key things that we need to work on, and I'm pretty sure next season we'll be good. We'll be good to go. In the end, the game ended 1-1. There did have some problems in this match. There was actually a play about the end of the match where Sheldon Sullivan takes down, I believe it was Lance Lang. Was it King or Lance Lang? He takes him down inside the box. To me, up in the press box, it was a blatant penalty, and neither the lineswoman nor the head referee called it, and so we were kind of lucky in that one. I think I mentioned to y'all that even one of our players said, "Yeah, that was a penalty."
Yeah, I know exactly what player you're talking about, and that was a blatant penalty that was not called. Thank goodness for still need to be polished. Is what I'm going to give it to that. Of course, yeah, you can't get every single thing correct.
That referee pretty much screwed each team in at least one instance of a key decision. So I think even in that we were tied. So this was. Everybody, I will say this, everybody at the stadium, whether it's a Toros fan or a San Antonio fan, they said, this is the best South Texas Derby match in our history. We saw grit from both sides. We saw the pushing. We saw that neither team wanted to lose this match. And I hope we can continue to have this kind of level between both teams, because this is only going to make the rivalry better, especially with the fact that now we have competition from El Paso, Austin, and who else is new? It's El Paso and Austin in Texas. Yeah, it's El Paso and Austin that we have new in the USL. And from what I heard, there's a lot of people that are going to be in San Antonio. They're going to be giving Austin Bold a higher priority over the Toros. So if we continue to have these kind of games where the players they don't want to, they treated this with the respect that a rivalry should be treated with. This rivalry is not going to die.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was. The start of this week, I forget which day exactly, but I was talking to, on Twitter, I was talking to a C fan as well, and it was the exact same thing. And kind of about the same thing. Of course, they still think they will make the MLS, but that's a totally different story for us to laugh at them at, because they're not going to pick San Antonio.
That's not going to happen.
Exactly.
This is your conscience. It's not going to happen, Harry. Not anymore. Pre-court already screwed you over. But that's a completely different subject. But yeah, you do have a point. Continue.
And so we were saying, yeah, it's going to be epic to see who will actually win this trophy. It will be a tournament in itself and amongst itself, because each team, if I'm not mistaken, since each team will be in the championship, will play each other twice, since we'll be in the West.
Mm-hmm.
True. Then on to some epic things and probably some knockouts in the playoff.
Hopefully. I honestly hope, and this is something that I really want to talk about later on in the show. I want to see what the future holds, or what we think, whether between you and I, what we think should be the direction that the Toros need to take this offseason. But before we get to that, I want you all to listen to some of the clips that from the interviews that I got with Chewy and with Todd after the San Antonio Derby. The first one that I will be playing will be Chewy Enriquez. So, anytime. Come on, Groove. There we go. Okay. Eventually. There we go. Chewy, talk to us about the match. What did you see today out there?
Well, to be completely honest, first half I was a little confused on what was going on, and I wasn't. Well, I feel like I wasn't having the plays that I was supposed to have. Second half I went in with way more confidence. I talked to the coaches. They gave me a little feedback, and it helped me out a lot. And I think second half I just gave it to them, me and the team. We had a lot of opportunities where we could have finalized the game, and I'm just happy we didn't have a chance to. That's it. I'm just happy that they don't have a chance to go to the playoffs.
Talk to us a little bit more. Was it so? You spoke individually that it was a mentality issue, but as a team, was it how San Antonio plays themselves tactically, or did you feel like
No, as a team?
Yes.
As a team, I think they came out knowing what we were gonna do. They probably did video. They probably, I don't know. They did video on the team, and I think they had us the first half. But second half, Coach Jerson, Brett talked to us and gave us a lot of feedback on what to do better on the second half, and obviously it worked.
Okay. And talk to us about that connection between you and Carlos Small. What was the key for y'all to make such an improvement, an impact in the team so quickly into the season?
Once he came, I felt the chemistry right away between me and him. It started right away. I got an assist on him. He gave me an assist right after. And ever since then, it hasn't stopped. Him to me to him. And, today, to be honest, first half, we were both being really selfish. And that's the reason why it wasn't working out. There was times where I could have gave it to him, and there was times where he could have gave it to me, and we could have easily scored a goal. But, second half, like I said, they talked to us. They told us we need to touch the ball in between each other more, and it definitely worked out.
What do you think has been the biggest improvement of this team throughout the season?
To be honest, I think the whole season, it has been good as a team. It's just like I've always said since the beginning of the season, we just haven't been able to finalize the games. We haven't been able to take advantage of the chances that we have. And to be honest, I really think that we could have been in playoffs if we just would have scored the goals that we needed to when we played all those teams that we tied and lost last minute to.
And talk to us about the importance of having Todd Warden as a captain. What does he bring to this team when he's on the pitch?
Oh no, Todd he's solid. He's always telling us what to do. He's always guiding us through the right path, and I'm grateful for the way he is not only in games but in training and as a person. He gives us the maturity that we need.
And my final question, throughout the match of play, how you had a couple of shots that one of them was saved by Matt Cardone. How frustrating is it to go up against the goalkeeper?
It's really frustrating, because I've had that play. I've did those exact same plays at a HEB, and I did them here. Where I take the guy on, and I think their balls are going in, and these, first it was Repo. I don't know the guy's name this game, but it was the exact same saves with the fingertips. And it was really frustrating because I could have given us the win.
Thank you, Trey. Right. All right, so guys, that was Chewy Enriquez talking after the match. Like he said, he talked about his connection with Carlos Small, the fact that he instantly felt chemistry between them. He felt like both of their play styles complemented each other really well. He did mention, obviously, that in the first half, he felt that both of them were very selfish. They did not pass the ball to each other, and I did kind of see that. And the second half, they kind of learned to play along better. But I think it also has a lot to do with how they were getting a little bit desperate. They were getting letting their emotions get to their head. And obviously, when you're at that moment, you don't think as clear as you usually do. So I think that was an issue that was alleviated thanks to the second half. Jacob, were you able to hear the interview?
I hear the interview, and exactly. You can hear you could hear the frustration in his voice easily, and he knew. It's exactly what we were really talking about. He knew that he was confused. He knew that the team was confused at the start and that they were getting desperate and all this stuff. And of course, it just comes back to you're here for the full 90 minutes, 45 minutes at a time. It's just, of course, we said it. It's as he develops more, he'll figure out that they will be able to play 90 full minutes instead of basically not showing up the first 45.
Yeah. So now let's take a listen to what Todd Warden said after the match. All right, talk to us a little bit about tonight's match. What you see out there?
Yeah, obviously it was a really good game, hard-fought game. Thought in the first half maybe we were a little unorganized defensively, and they had a little bit more of the ball, but I thought the second half we relaxed a little bit and kept it more, and obviously we created a lot more chances the second half, so I thought it was a really good game. So
what has it, as a captain, what has been your overall evaluation on the team this season?
Yeah, I think we've grown up a good amount at the beginning of the year. A bunch of younger guys, still trying to get the chemistry going. I think it took us over half the season to finally figure out how to play as well as we could together. And it showed at the end of the year. I think we ended the season with 4 wins and 2 ties. So yeah, a lot of growing up, and at the end of the season we proved it that we could win games. And I think that even in the beginning of the season, in the middle, we could have won games. We just got a little bit unlucky or a little bit immature in some games, but we grew up a little bit.
And personally, in pretty much throughout the season, you've been consistently with a really high passing accuracy. You've been pretty much the playmaker of this team. Are you satisfied with your personally your results this season?
Yeah, pretty happy with myself. But at the end of the day, players play to win championships and make playoffs, and we didn't do that. So in that sense, it's a failure. But I haven't really reflected too much on myself. Maybe I'll do that in the next few weeks. But right now, I'm just a little upset that we didn't make playoffs and the season's over.
Talk to us also about the impact that Carlos Small brought to this team.
Yeah, he's very dynamic. He's very fast and strong. And I think in the USL, those players are really important. So yeah, you could tell when he came into the team, he started creating a few more chances, and got some wins here and there. So I think he did really well for us.
All right, so that was our captain, Todd Warden, talking about the season as a whole. What did you think about that, Jacob?
Oh, yeah, that felt disappointed, and it's great hearing it from even the captain, someone like Carlos Small, and then of course Chuy Enriquez, and then hearing it also from, it's just this really the same exact things that they're saying. It was really cool to see they improved throughout that season, is basically what he was saying. And then of course that he is disappointed that they missed playoffs, which I think you and I probably both think this. If we have of the team staying behind and not really losing anyone to either Houston or just to another team, I mean, we have a really good opportunity to make playoffs. And so it was really cool to see this chemistry going up and seeing teams win. So yeah, I thought that was really great to hear from Todd. Yeah, definitely. It just seems it's just general consensus that they know that yes, there's been improvement. But there's a whole lot more that they need to improve if they want to be where they think they should be. Especially with the fact that a lot of these guys, their mentality is, I want to do good here. That way I can play in MLS, hopefully with the Houston Dynamo. And I think that's a bigger motivation to these guys, is like, I want to do my best and prove to the Dynamo that I'm able to compete in USL. And if I'm able to compete in USL and stand out in USL, hey,
maybe not, maybe a reason enough to say like I might make it in MLS. So that I think I see now as a positive for this team, and like I said, a lot of these players, I mean, we won 6 out of the. Hold on, I'm trying to remember. I think we won 6 out of the last 7 matches, or we didn't lose in 6 of the last 7 matches with this team at the end of the season. Let me get you exactly what it was at the end, because I know we had we really had a positive run of games towards the end of the season. So we tied against San Antonio, obviously. We defeated Tulsa. We defeated Fresno. We lost against Reno. We defeated Seattle Sounders 2. We tied against Colorado Springs. So in the last 6 matches, we had 7 matches because the week before we defeated Real Monarchs 2-1. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4. So out of the last 7 matches, we had positive results in 6, with 3 of those being wins. So that was a good way to end the season. Hopefully, we continue this run of form to the beginning of 2019. So here comes the good part. This is going to be the fun part of this episode. We're going to enjoy it so much. I know I did when I was asked this question on Gen Orange. So Jacob, from this roster, let's make it easy for you first. Who should not come back to this team, or who do you think did not show that they could stay in this team?
Well, yeah, it's pretty easy right there. Jorginho James is one right off the top of my head. I know there are a couple of other players for sure. Really, it's players that you just get the actual roster to say, oh yeah, this player shouldn't come back. But for sure, just looking at the substitutes to San Antonio, it's that I'm saying, yeah, we brought Bryce Marion, Jordan Jones, and Brandon Morales. All 3 of those, they deserve to stay. But the ones that deserve to leave, going on the road with us for substitutes, because most likely they won't get subbed in, and B, why do you think you're not making it to the first team on road games? You ain't that good. So for sure one would be, but I'd have to look at the list for others.
Okay. All right. So let me tell you what our roster is. I'll go one by one, and you'll say stay or leave. We'll do it like that. All right. So, Matt Sanchez.
Matt Sanchez.
The goalkeeper.
The goalkeeper. I mean, why not have a lot of goalkeepers?
So you would have him stay?
Yeah, I'd have him stay.
I'd have him leave. I don't think we need him, because we already have, and we'll keep on saying it right now.
Back to see Nelson staying with RGB. Is that why?
We talked about it. Yes, we talked about it. We talked about it on Tuesday, and yeah, there is a huge probability that Michael Nelson will be receiving minutes with RGV. Because, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if that happens, then yeah, leave. But I would think what actually happen will be that, yeah, Sanchez will need to stay just to be a roster filler. Because, yeah, Nelson might to Houston for some league games or something of that sort.
Okay. Okay, so we've talked. Michael Nelson has to stay. Tyler Derrick is going to be with the Dynamo. Nico Cordy, stay or go?
Stay. He's got a ton of growing left to do as a keeper, and he's still really young. I see him staying here for at least 2 more years.
Okay, and Chris Sides is probably going to leave the Dynamo. So basically, out of this roster, we keep 2 goalkeepers, Michael Nelson and Nico Corti. We can probably assume that we probably might get 1 more keeper either through the draft or through some sort of tryouts or bringing in somebody. But I feel Sean's coming. It'd be interesting to get his. Because I know we talked about it on Gen Orange, but hopefully we can he can mention it on our show as well. All right, so
Sean.
defenders. All right, so defenders. Kai Green. Stay or go?
Still stay. He is inconsistent, but I think him staying for another year will really get his momentum or just skills really polished as well, and for him to not be that inconsistent as he was.
We're talking about your favorite part from Generation Orange, but now with us.
The truth bomb.
Yeah, it's a should I stay or should I go kind of thing. And the reason I tell you this is because we just went through keepers, and hopefully you'll be able to see and talk about, because this is one of the things that you surprised me with. I believe it was on Tuesday.
Wednesday.
Well, okay, on Wednesday when we talked about RGB keepers.
Google would have been, or I mean,
we talked
YouTube
about
would have been
keepers?
shut down on.
Yeah, we talked about Nico Corti.
Oh, he needs to go. Look, he's not good enough to compete right now. He's not on the level of Michael Nelson. And if you're going to have a keeper that's not going to be on that same level, he's not going to compete with Michael. If he's not going to compete with Michael, it's not going to push Michael. If it's not going to push Michael, is it worth keeping him on the squad? And I think the answer to that is absolutely not. You can find another keeper in USL or via the draft that can at least compete with Nelson. Mm-hmm. So that's all there is to it.
Another keeper leaving. Wow, okay. I see that as well. Because, yeah, you'd have Sanchez gone and Corti gone.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Fill both of them.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Robert Castellanos. Stay or go?
Robert Castellanos, I say stay. If he's worth it to be on the bench versus your rivals, on the road, he's worth it to stay for another season.
Yeah, I think he should stay because even when he comes in, and I talked about it as well, when he comes in, you see him, his level of play is not that different compared to everybody else. The question was whenever they played him against or with Omar Ontiveros, that was where they felt a little bit confused to develop, but I think he's on the right path as long as he's with either Connor Donovan and Kyle Adams. All right, so next one, Manny Padilla.
Padilla, for sure, that is a stay.
Okay. Connor Donovan, which from what I hear, he'll probably be still getting minutes with RGV. So since he's under an MLS contract, he'll be staying. Now,
yeah, two-way contract for that person, for that man is perfect. I in my opinion, really, I think this whole team should get a contract. Why? Because, well, it gives you an opportunity to maybe play just a little bit with the first team of Houston, or of course for a cup. Well, then, yeah, that's perfect. It gives you a little leeway to even progress faster than if you were just staying in USL.
Yeah. All right. So let's take a look here. All right. So Tucker Connor, AJ is going to be with the Dynamo. Derek Luke. I say he goes.
Exactly.
I
say he goes.
He was never able to recover from his surgery. Mano Tiveros, he's a homegrown. I think he should stay.
Yeah, stay.
Sheldon's
He's also proven himself worthy of getting more minutes too.
Sheldon Sullivan.
He could be worth keeping just for that extra depth. Soccer is this man is decent as well when he plays. So giving him the choice is because we never know what will happen during the season.
Yeah, definitely. So he stays. Kyle Adams, obviously, I'm going to assume you're going to say he stays.
Nah, he goes. Of course, yeah, stay.
Forgive him, Kyle. All right, so this is where the fun begins, and this is in the midfield. So Luis Gil, he's with the Dynamo, obviously. Jorginho James, you said he has to go. Matias Saldivar, stay or go.
Matias Saldivar, well, that's where Houston would be midfield plus goalies. I say he would stay because I really don't know what would happen if if Houston decides not to worry about midfield and lets him go there. So,
All right, Nico Perea.
Oh, he stays for sure.
Pablo Aguilar.
What'd you say?
Obviously, this guy, give him a lifetime contract, Chuy Enriquez.
Aguilar and Chuy, yeah, exactly. Boom.
David Cabrera.
He stays for sure. He has impressed me as well, given the fact that he's also started games too.
I think you're talking about Wilmer Jr. No, David Cabrera.
Oh, David hasn't started? I thought he's started.
Only once.
Exactly, yeah. Skills to start as well.
He send him because I think he's still under 23. Because I think I'd probably send him down to Brazos Valley. But oh well. Todd Warden, obviously, give this guy a lifetime contract. He stays. Bryce Marion.
Bryce Marion stays.
Brandon Morales.
He stays.
Romelio Hernandez.
Emilio Hernandez.
He's gonna have to. I think he's gonna stay just because we just barely got him, and
Yeah,
he hasn't really shown us what he's made of because he's. He doesn't know this team yet a lot.
He's got the whole offseason of this team. And sue me because you hate that system, but guess what? That's the way that it's going to go. All this team needs to train their butt off to A, get to the playoffs, which will show Houston that it's worth it, and B, to the MLS.
All right. Camilo Monroy, he barely came in, so he's probably going to stay. Forwards, Jordan Jones.
Well, he's on and off, but I'd say he will probably...
You think he stays?
Yeah, I think he stays.
Now remember, we might be seeing a lot more Max Steves next season.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true because of his injury as well. So
Aldo
probably one
Quintanilla.
of them will be gone, and it might be Jordan Jones. But at the same time, we've also got Monday Etienne too. So one of those two will probably not be with us next season.
And if you ask me, I'd rather have Jordan Jones than Monday at 10. Aldo Quintanilla.
Quintanilla, he will stay for sure.
Wilmer Jr.
Junior stays.
Carlos Esmal.
Well, that's up to... If I'm not mistaken, that is up to them. That is up to that team.
Now
Try to deal with us, then we'll take them.
Now, guess what I found out yesterday or on Tuesday?
What did you find out?
Turns out that Carlos Esmal is under an MLS contract.
Ooh.
which means that he is eligible to be chosen in the expansion draft.
Oh.
That-
For him. Oh,
That took me by surprise. Honestly. When Sean told me that yesterday, I was like, what? Okay, so basically what he did is like with the Dynamo, he's like, okay, choose the 11 players that you want to protect for the expansion draft. So I named my players as like, yeah, you forgot 2, and one of them is Carlos Small. I was like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, he's under an MLS contract. I was like, no way. But yeah. So if the Dynamo don't protect him, oof, that's might be interesting. But if they have long-term plans with Carlos, I think he will be protected. But that's another part of the equation that we need to consider for next year, what the Dynamo decides to do with Carlos Small in regards to this. And okay, so we talked also Monday Edson being gone. All right. From this roster, from based on these players that you said should stay, what positions would you like to see Matt Jordan getting players in this offseason?
I think it could happen to where he messes with the midfield, and of course he has to mess with the keepers. If we're saying that you get rid of Cordy because of the fact that not going to apparently push Michael Nelson, which, yeah, that is really fair to say. He still has a lot of growing to do. And of course, we're going to most likely kick out third stringer, which would be Matt Sanchez. Right there, yeah, you need to work on getting a keeper from at least the draft to challenge him. Mm-hmm. Of course, if you really do have to just to make a roster filler, keep one of those keepers. Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I really do see him working on that midfield. Plus, that defense is solid. And that offense, we just figured out that they have gotten stronger throughout this season, and they've been hitting things more and more. Sometimes they do have off games, but every team will have an off game. So I think we'll see midfield and goalkeeping really being pushed.
All right, so I think personally I would grab another left back. Probably one that is better than Sheldon Sullivan, or at least his backup. I would grab another winger in order to continue to keep that dynamicness that Chuy Enriquez brings whenever Chuy Enriquez is not on the field. So in other words, that way the tactics aren't drastically changed when Chuy or Carlos are not on the field. And I would probably grab another backup keeper, and I think those three. So another winger, another left back, and another keeper. I don't think we need to make a lot of changes in this offseason.
100% agree with you that we don't need to make a lot of changes, because given the fact that this team that has shown better, that they have been improving throughout this season, so that's great. Mm-hmm. May lose Carlos Small, so that might be a big blow right there. And then, of course, we've got, and then we'll lose a couple of goalkeepers and midfielders, and yes, working with that left back. I think it's really going to work out if we much with this team. If Matt Jordan, yes, he gets those players, but I think
we'll do much better job in the standings next season compared to this season. I think our players know exactly what they did wrong, what they did right, and they're going to learn from this experience and continue to build up on it for coming next season. We're going to get better players, whether it's from the Houston Dynamo, tryouts, or bringing them in from the more players from the draft. I think there's a lot of hope coming for next season. And I just hope that the fans understand this and reflect it up in the stands, that this team is getting better. And if they do get better, hopefully we can get more and more people each week to go to HB Park.
Yeah. And of course it will help, like, the late season, if they see, oh, look at this team, we've got a chance. It also goes back to the U.S. men's national team, the way that, the crowd is, oh, I'm not going to follow this team till they make the World Cup or something of that nature. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they can kind of casually and see, oh, they're in playoff positions and they've got maybe a 2-game win streak. Was it this year? Like, they haven't lost at home, something of that sort. And they're actually winning at home, to be exact. They haven't lost and they're winning. They can see that. Maybe it'll be able to fill up the stadium as well. And of course, back to marketing, and then what can also help is having those Mexican League games. And if the team is doing really well, because we can technically say we're in the first division, USL. So market it cheeky like that, then I think it can also work really well to where we can have a really good I still think it was because of the sophomore slump. I really do.
I sure hope so. I think I just was completely taken back when I saw that attendance fell 33% compared to last year. But I mean, there's a lot of factors in this, and why am I getting super sleepy? All right. So, I mean, we talked about what we would like to see as far as transfers coming next season and things like that. Anything else that you want us to talk about, Jacob? When we talked women's national team, we talked about the Toros, obviously. Talked about the South Texas Derby.
We talked all that. I mean, not really. It's to that point in the season. Well, now the season is officially done.
Yeah, we have now reached a point where news is going to be slow because no news is usually done until maybe early January, which is when they're starting
the next transfer window. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're gonna have the MLS Super Draft, you start seeing that's when a lot more announcements are made as far as transfers, who leaves, who comes, who gets resigned, who isn't, and so it's gonna be really slow. So more than likely, going on for the rest of this year, we will not be having Down in the Valley per se every week. It'll probably be just once a month. And even then, I'm probably if it's completely dead as far as news is concerned, it'll probably just be a Down in the Valley gaming stream every Thursday at 7 p.m. That way, it gives you all an opportunity to kind of check out what we do with Down in the Valley gaming. I know we were talking about getting F1. And playing multiplayer with it. I'm actually going to be buying an Xbox One this weekend, so we can play pro clubs. on FIFA 19, as well as I know next week you have Red Dead Redemption 2 coming out, which I am completely stoked for that game. I can't wait to get it and play it. I think it's going to be epic, and hopefully I'll be able to get everything set up so I can do a stream of that for Down in the Valley Gaming. So during the off season, that's what's going to happen. We're going to be focused more on the gaming aspect of this channel rather than the soccer aspect. So be tuning in on that. If you guys want to join in on the FIFA 19 Pro Clubs team, be sure to let me know. Contact me on Twitter at @Ochoa_8 and give us your Xbox One gamer tag. That way we can add you to the clubs, and we're probably going to be doing it every Thursday where we'll be playing pro clubs, and it'll be combined Dynamo RGV team of players that will be part of this team. So I think it'll be fun. And hopefully we'll be able to participate, as well as Jacob and I. We got some things planned to start doing streaming wise between us, and that'll be kind of fun. So be sure to check that out. Follow us on Twitch, twitch.com/DownInTheValleyGaming, as well as our YouTube channel. You can search for it, Down in the Valley Gaming, as well. We will probably be posting the archives on YouTube and doing the streaming on Twitch. So be sure to check that out. And guys,
that's a smart way to do it, because we don't know what will happen with YouTube. Apparently, it will just go down if someone tries to block it in, let's say, Pakistan.
Wow.
That was the reason why it went down on Tuesday.
Wait. Are you serious?
Yeah. Apparently, Pakistan tried to block YouTube.
Oh, wow.
Since that whole internet thing has gone just totally crazy, and I think that's the whole reason why YouTube went down.
Yeah, because I remember we were doing the Generation Orange stream, then all of a sudden I see 0 viewers, it went from 6 to 0 in a second. I was like, wait, something isn't right. And I go look at YouTube, and it's it won't load. And so we thought it was our internet that was messing up again. And when I go to check it, is YouTube down on Google? And I saw a bunch of reports in the last 15 minutes. So I was like, yeah, YouTube is down, literally down. And I think it took 2 hours to get it back.
2 hours. That's as long as I was as well broadcast with. Yeah, that was about it. Luckily, it was. Whoever was streaming at that time, it was archiving everything, so that was the thing.
Yeah,
it wasn't. It was just YouTube, but it was down for every viewer.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I guess that's pretty much it for today's episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys to everybody who participated in the chat. Calvin B, Blues fan. How you doing, Blues? Thank you for joining in this episode. Be sure to check out, if you guys missed any part of this episode, be sure to check out, the video is archived on YouTube, and we will be posting the podcasts as well soon on Stitcher, Google Play Store, iTunes, and SoundCloud. So be sure to follow us there at Down in the RGV. If you haven't done so already, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Down in the RGV. And also check out the Beautiful Game Network, who, if it wasn't with them, we wouldn't be where we're at right now. As far as the podcasting platforms, they help us out a lot in that regard. So big thank you to Mike Sparks and the guys in the Beautiful Game Network. Be sure to follow them at the BGNFM on Facebook and Twitter. Also follow them check out their website at bgn.fm. And check out BGN Written. That's where Ray writes his articles. I know these past couple of articles he's written was about the CONCACAF Women's Championship. So check out the orange blocks there on Beautiful Game Network Written. Be sure to also check out Last Word on Soccer. That's where Jacob is collaborating with his articles regarding RGVFC. So be sure to check out his articles there at Last Word on Soccer. And follow them on Twitter at Last Word SC. And I know downintheRGB.com is still down. We're trying to work on that, but it's going to be a slow process. So just Be patient with that. Hopefully, we'll be able to get it back soon. No, we weren't hacked or anything. It's just there's a problem with Amazon Web Services that Sean's trying to fix in that aspect. Also, check out if you guys speak Spanish or know somebody who speaks Spanish and are interested in following the Toros and the Dynamo. Be sure to check out our friends at Mentefutbolera at mentefutbolera.com. On Twitter, follow them at Somos La Mente. And they're also on Instagram and Facebook as Mente Futbolera. So be sure to check them out. I write articles. I collaborate with them with articles for RGVFC and the Houston Dynamo. So be sure to check it out there. And having said all of this, once again, thank you all for tuning in to the show. We'll see you next Thursday for a Down in the Valley Gaming stream. Once Jacob and I figure out what we want to stream next week, we will let you all know on our Twitter. So be sure to keep an eye out on that. And if you guys have any suggestions of what you guys want us to play, you're more than welcome to let us know as well. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Hashtag Somos Toros. Hashtag We Are Toros. And Forever Orange. Take care.